Today is Thursday, July 30th, 2015. My name is Jeff Cabrera. I'm speaking with Mick Dolan at the Salem Media Group radio stations in Altamont Springs, Florida. Thanks for speaking with me today, Mick.
No problem.
Let's just begin, I guess, with a little of your biography. Could you tell us a little about where you're from originally and early kind of bio details?
I was found under a rock about 64 years ago. My radio career started in Topeka, Kansas. I was at a station there, then I went to Kansas City, spent a couple years there, and about 5 years in Louisville. But on July 28th, 1980, I came here and started at DIZ. So 35 years. I'm celebrating my 35th on radio here in Orlando. DIZ was a great radio station. It's gone now. Then I went on, took a break, got out of the business completely, and about 3 or 4 years later, I saw a friend in the line at the post office, and she goes, "You know what? They're looking for people over at WLOQ, the smooth jazz station." So I said, So I went over there, and I actually interviewed for the promotions director job, but I didn't get it. But the program director says, "Hey man, we need to get you back on the air here." So we did a part-time job for a while. It worked into a full-time job. I was a morning host with another guy, Mark Taylor. And then went to the nights, and then the station got sold. So I've actually killed 2 radio stations in my career here. But after that, took another little break and found a job here doing news and traffic now at the Salem stations, WORL and WBZW. So afternoon drive, man, I'm the news guy and the traffic guy. So, what goes around comes around. And but you know what? It has always beat working. I've never, I never really wanted a real job. I wanted to do what I like to do, and isn't that the whole reason? I mean, come on. If you can't like what you're doing, then what are you doing? So that's what I tell people. It always beats work. Let's close that door.
All right.
That's awful noise. We make a lot of noise here at Salem. It's okay. Most of it's good.
Yeah.
All right. Should I be looking at there?
Oh, no, just okay. It's fine. It's good.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess let's see. Tell us a little about the Baxter and Mark show. I noticed you sent some photos of them, and I read a little bit about the shock jock era kind of thing.
Yeah, that was before your time. Right? Yeah, you young guys, I just don't know. Well, they were one of the best morning shows ever. And the thing that they did was they interacted with people. They're not talking to you. They're getting they had callers all the time. They were always pulling stunts and pranks and just some amazing stuff on the radio. And unfortunately, because the business is the business, the management felt that after a while that they'd outlived their run, and they replaced them with Ron and Ron. Another good show, but just kind of kicking them to the curb after 5, 6, 7 years, that's crazy. But they were not able to carry on the team, so they split up. And Mark Szymanski died back in 2011, and we tried to do a reunion for him. I haven't been able to do it the last couple of years. It's kind of it's a lot of work, but just in his memory, because he was such a talent. I mean, Dr. Zonas and Opie Gets Nookie, all these songs that they did that they would take a song, a popular song, and change it around a little bit and make a funny out of it. And the stunts, the wake-up calls were legendary. They were doing this stuff before anybody else did, so they were true groundbreakers. They really were. And Baxter's still around. He's up in Washington, D.C. He's doing voice work. But, he's the kind of guy who can do anything in radio. I mean, he can do the commercials. He was an operations guy. He was really he sort of kept him on the ground, I think, and Szymanski was out of his mind. So they worked so well together. It was a great show. But Long live Baxter and Mark. You can still see them. Can't think of it. Yeah, it's BaxterRadio.com. He's got a bunch of their old bits. One of my favorites ever was Mr. Bradley. This was an old black guy that thought he was calling the radio station to win Michael Jackson tickets. And they turned that poor boy every which way. They recorded the bit and then later would split it up, chop it up. They could make him say anything. It was the most unbelievable thing. And they got, I don't know how many bits they did. Every once in a while Mr. Bradley would call. And so, it just stuff like that was just epic. It was unbelievable. But anyway, we've got the memories. And it's hard to believe that radio station went away. It'll be 20 years next year. 1996, Clear Channel bought them, turned them into soft rock, and then it went to Spanish, and then I don't know. What is it now? I don't know, but I think it's still Spanish. But it was pretty amazing. That's the way radio is. Nothing ever stays the same. Well, that's in any media. It's like that. It's always changing, and you got to stay one step ahead. And quite frankly, that has been a problem. I haven't been able to do that. But it's hard to be a 64-year-old disc jockey in rock radio, and I can still bring a lot to the table, but it is what it is. That's what it is.
You talked about Clear Channel in '96 buying out a lot of the
Bought us
radio
all.
stations. Yeah.
104. These were all freestanding radio stations, because back then you could only own an AM and an FM. That was it. Now I think it's like 7 total you can own. So you got 3 companies that dominate the market here: Cox, Clear Channel, and what is it? CBS, I think. I'm not sure. Maybe they call it something else. I have no idea. But those 3 guys dominate, still. And that's what deregulation did. Can't win them all. Put a lot of good people out of work, I can tell you that. And is the quality of radio any better? I don't think so. No. I mean, what MMO does, what JRR does, they do what they do. That's good. But it just doesn't have the soul. It doesn't have the heart that we had back in the day. Because those guys are doing a bunch of other jobs. You don't just do radio. When I was hired back in the day, I mean, in my case, I was promotions director too, and so I did that as well as be on the air. And I was also the production director. I had 3 jobs there, but really most people just did one. You were on the air. You did your 4-hour shift and you were done. It's like, wow, what a job that is. Not anymore. Now we got to pay the piper. So anyway. Business has changed. Can't win them all.
What was the Orlando music scene like when you first came, and kind of how did it evolve?
It blew up in the '80s. I mean, there was a rock club on every corner. Point After, Fern Park Station, Plus 3 Lounge. The ABC lounges were doing live music, and I'm forgetting a bunch of others, but. It was fun. I mean, it didn't hurt that I had lived like 2 blocks from Fern Park Station, and my car knew the way home, so I had no problems there. But it was just a fun time. It was kind of an innocent time, and it was anything goes. It was back when you could get away with stuff, and now we've got laws. So. It was just a really special time, and there were booking agents that, oh my God, Rick Young and Brewster Bruton, Steve Peck, these guys, Earl Tennant, these guys made big money booking bands. Now the clubs don't want to pay for it. That's the problem. The clubs don't want to pay for their entertainment. Plus, everybody thinks he can be a rock star, so there's a million bands out there. And there's some good bands. You're in a good band. So, where's the outlet? How do you guys make money? I should be asking you that. So it was real special. And then I think just the combination of the economy just kind of went another direction, and the deregulation of radio, and I think that really hurt. And now there's still clubs out there. You can still hear a good band, but they're not making any money. It's too bad, but they're just not. So,
Do you have any favorites, like local bands from the 80s or 90s?
Oh, there was the Bobby Frisk Band and Stranger and Foreign Legion, and in fact, Stranger Band, they lost a couple of people. They lost their guitar player. He passed years ago, and then their drummer, JP, recently he had cancer or something. So they're all getting old and dying. But Greg Billings was in that band. He still has his band, the Greg Billings Band. So, but those were special bands. I don't know. There's a million of them. I can't remember any of them right now. But those bands were able to make a living and have a lot of fun. Back in opening up for Van Halen and things like that. So they were big. But it's all gone now. There was a band called Sons of Doctors. It was great too. They were a little bit later, late 80s, but Angelo Giannotti, those guys, they're still around. So it was a special time. It really was.
What about I read a little about the rock Super Bowls they did at the Citrus Bowl.
Epic, unbelievable. I came from Louisville in 1980, and it was funny because those big stadium shows were just starting back, late 70s, early 80s, and I had seen ZZ Top and Leonard Skinner in Louisville, and that same show then, and Bob Seger, they came that summer, so I caught them there too. But those Super Bowl, they had big name acts, every one of them, and I think that fell victim to the times as well. The bands who are big and popular, they want too much money, and a show like that, you just couldn't put it together like they could then. Well, of course, there was the Stones and the Who, and Stones came back. I did not see that show. I wanted to, but I missed it. And because I had to pay now. I didn't have to pay back then, and I ain't gonna pay hundreds of dollars. I'm sorry, I love the band, but I got better things to do with that money. I shouldn't say that. I probably shot myself in the foot, but that's all right. It's only rock and roll. So, but that was a community thing, man, and the memories, and again, what you could get away with. It's crazy. It was all good. And you talk to anybody who's been around a while, and you mention rock Super Bowls, and they're going to go, I remember that one. Yeah, Ted Nugent. It was pretty cool. Very nice. But I don't think they could pull that off now. You just can't do that. It would have to be part of a tour, and I know there's tours like that, but not in that environment. That is just something else. And the Citrus Bowl wasn't even that big back then. They still put 50,000 in there, so promoters made a lot of money. Everybody was happy. And the tickets, I don't know. Those Super Bowl tickets probably weren't more than $20. Oh my God! Can you imagine that? Yeah, those were the days. It is.
Yeah. Did you have any interesting stories about being backstage?
That you can talk about to me? One of my favorites was David Lee Roth, Van Halen, and because I got to do an interview with him, and those days it wasn't wireless, there wasn't any of that, but so I recorded it on a cassette player, and we took a bus over there to see him. It was in Lakeland, and that's where the concerts were. It was Lakeland Civic Center. There was no Orlando Arena. There was no Amway Center. There was nothing. So you had to go to Lakeland to see a show. And the same for Tampa. So the two converged, the markets converged there. And it was kind of cool because backstage you'd see the Tampa radio guys, and you know, it was a kind of a family. But David Lee Roth was out of his mind. Took over he was interviewing me. So I had that, and I played it for the people on the bus back home, on the way back. And it was just epic. I'll tell you, the worst interview I ever had was George Thorogood. Guy was a total asshole. I'm sorry, he was. Great music, loved the guy. Couldn't believe that, but he was obnoxious. He was making fun of radio. He was, you know, dissing on everybody. And it was like, well, you know, hey man, I'm sorry. I'm trying to help you. I'm doing this for you as much as for me. So it just left a really bad taste in my mouth. But then, you know, I got to be on stage for The Who, and I got to bring on the B-52s. They opened for The Who. And that was the punk rock scene there. They were considered, you know, new wave. The rock guys did not like. They were booing, they were throwing stuff on stage. I'm bringing them on, and I dodge a Converse All-Star, a red one. I'll never forget it. So I dodged that one, brought on the band. They lasted maybe 3 songs. And while I was on stage, the other Converse All-Star, the other red one, came flying up on the stage. So they only lasted 3 songs and walked off, and I can't blame them. But there's just epic stuff like that. But there's no, I mean, you can't even describe what it's like to be out on that stage in front of 50,000 people. And when you speak, there's a delay. There's like a half to a full second delay. So you're hearing, you know, that's hard to get used to. But, you know, the experience was just unbelievable. Great stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I read also you did CMT's like a fantasy camp.
Yeah, Camp Nashville.
What was
My
that?
friend and I, Lee Bailey, who was a promoter himself. In fact, he was one of the only guys to lose money on Larry the Cable Guy, if you can believe that. And so he had some bad luck. But we were trying to do, it was patterned after Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, which is hugely successful. And what the concept is, you gather musicians, you pay to be a camper, and you know they jam with you, they teach you some stuff, they have sessions, you know, it's very cool concept. Well, we thought we could do it, and we went to Nashville, and found out that it was a little harder than we thought, and so it never even got off the ground. We opened it, we were taking camper, you know, registrations, but just didn't have the money or the contacts to make it happen. And I still think it's a great idea, but we just couldn't pull it off. So I like all kinds of music. I mean, I've worked rock and smooth jazz, always, you know, News and Traffic, but I like country. I'm not real fond of rap, but I mean, every music has something in it. And every music, Americana, I mean, come on. Bon Iver, I like that guy. I think that guy is talented. But you know, I don't know all the new music. I don't know how anybody keeps up with it. There's just so much out there. And so much that's never heard by, you know, anybody but the real fans. So I depend on my 2 sons to keep me up on that. But it's just a great career if you can find your niche. That's the whole key. And you got to remember that it changes every day, practically. And so be ready to move, you know.
I know you got a show to get to, so
Yeah, man.
we'll wrap this up.
The news and traffic never stops, and there's plenty to do. But let's make sure. Yeah, I'm good.
Right.
Okay, but you know, just in closing, it's so good to be remembered, I think, in a positive way. And I just tried to be myself and try to connect, I mean, I love people, and that's what you have to have. You have to have that empathy for your audience. and on stage as well. I love to do on stage. Love to bring bands on. I just brought Blandini. Jeff Blando is an old rocker that's still around, and played with Slaughter and I can't think of it. Anyway, but he's got his own band, Blandini. Just brought him on, and it's a new place called Paradise Cove in Seminole County, right by the river. Man, it's got a pool, boat slips. You can pull your boat right up. And so my friend Randy has got that place. And so, I still do that all the time. I love these, especially these bands that have been around for a while and are still doing it. And it's like, hey, one relic introduces the others, right? So it beats working, always. And I appreciate you coming by and talking to me.
Yeah, I appreciate talking to us, Mick. Thanks a lot.
And get the word out. We're still here.
Will do.
Okay.
All right, man.
Thank
Thanks.
you.